Okay, so really fast, I wanted to give this encouragement. Let's say that you find yourself in a Mitzrayim situation. Let's say that you find yourself as a believer and you find yourself in a spiritual Egypt. Let's say that that spiritual Egypt is oppressing you. You feel like you're enslaved. You feel like you're yoked to something, you're submitted to something that is less than where you are spiritually. What will happen, from what I've studied with the exodus of the Ivri from Mitzrayim, is that he's going to challenge, Yahweh is going to challenge the structure of Mitzrayim. So look at the plagues of Egypt that happened in Egypt. Egyptians had the god Ra, which was, I think, the sun god. They had the god of the sky. They had the god of the water and the river Nile. They had the god of the air. They had the god of everything, fertility, all of that, the underworld. And what each plague did is it shook the infrastructure of Egypt. So to have gnats in the air that are breeding and are causing disease, that goes against one of the gods. To have darkness fall upon Mitzrayim challenges the god of the sun. To have the Nile polluted with blood, that challenges the god of the Nile. Whatever is perceived to be the dominating supply for spiritual Egypt, he's going to allow to show through your presence of being there as a believer that infrastructure is going to fall. So what I've found is that by being around people who practice witchcraft, and let's say I've had that diplomatic conversation about what I believe because they've asked, and I'm not pushing or asserting my beliefs on anybody because it's not me who does the work, it's the Father, it's the Spirit, right? So I remember talking to this one woman who practiced Santeria, who practiced witchcraft, and basically she was saying how she got into it. Basically her church hurt had led her there, and why she was against it. And I said, well, a lot of people who are going to church these days, they have never read their Bible. They don't understand the power that the Spirit gives his people. They don't understand gifts. They don't understand prophetic ministry. They don't understand all of those things. And so they tend to abuse those who are extremely empathetic, and they don't know how to use their spiritual gifts properly. And so what that does is it runs those people out of the church, and then they fall susceptible to listening to New Age theory, because New Age allows them to have a free-spirited approach towards exploring those gifts without judgment. And I was like, just because somebody allows you to explore yourself without judgment doesn't mean that that's a safe way to do it. If a child really likes to color, there's a safe place to color. It's not in the middle of the street. But if you've always been kept from coloring, you're going to think it's safe to color in the street if a stranger tells you to do it, because you're finally free to color, not realizing that the street has dangerous cars that are passing through and you can get hit. So I was explaining that to her. One of the things that happened was the water in her altar on her table. One of the toys, it's just crazy, one of the toys that her son was playing with, it just kind of flew and knocked down the water on the altar, right? And she got upset by that. And I could tell she was upset. I was like, hey, can I help you clean up, and that sort of thing. And she's just like, no. But I could tell that the spirit behind what we were talking about was really upset by what we were doing, right? That conversation. And it was just a matter of time before I started to see her do certain things against me, like try to make spells and stuff like that, because she felt intimidated. And she said she felt spiritually intimidated. So I was in a situation where I couldn't leave that place. But at the same time, I wanted to see from the Father what would happen. So it was just like, I noticed that she would say things about me or what I have. And then she would do these practices, right? She would leave hair or beads or oils and stuff like that where I was or around certain things. But it was just a matter of time before I noticed that the very things that she had mentioned and the very things that she had placed these artifacts near, her assets were the ones that were affected. So it was almost as if it was like a mirror that bounced back everything that was projected against me for sharing my beliefs and treating her with as much dignity as I possibly could. Diplomacy, I didn't get into an argument with her about what she was doing against me or mine. What it is you just go in there with some bleach and you clean, you pray, you ask the Father to separate you from anything that is not of Him, and He will do it. He will do it. But He will also show the entity or the people the very things that they are projecting that they want done against you. He will do to them. Because look at the last plague, which is the angel of death. So they had already killed all the Ivri boys, 2 and old and younger, right? So the Malachim of death came and visited Egypt, and great was the mourning, great was the sadness, because Egypt was received, Mitzrayim received the impact of what they had already done to the Ivri. So I'm not going to make this a long message, but I just want to encourage those who find themselves in situations where it's like, Father, I know that this is not in alignment with what your word says, that you cannot touch His children when they're walking in obedience. And then what will happen to you as a believer is that you're going to be promoted. You're going to be placed in a place where the sorrow of your bondage is no longer, it's a distant memory. Just don't complain. Don't complain. Don't murmur, and don't lose heart, because it can be easy to do, because the situation seems so bleak. It reeks of despair. It feels like affliction. It feels like angst. But don't allow those feelings, which are very, very temperamental, to affect your destiny. Don't get lost in the wilderness. Don't get lost in the hallway on the way to where you're destined to go. Be encouraged, because the season of despair is replaced by rejoicing that far surpasses what you're endeavoring to overcome. So just be patient in the season and listen to Him. He's going to tell you exactly where to go. Listen to that Spirit. That Spirit is His Ruach, and it's going to be like, go to such and such. And it might feel like fear in the moment, because it's like, how am I going to get there? How am I going to do those things? But He wouldn't tell you to go unless He gave you the measure to do it. Do not stay tied to something that is abusive or wrong spiritually, because you don't know the logistics of how to get out of it. He will provide the way. He always does. All right. I love you guys. I look forward to your next video. If you still have not had a chance to sign the petition to free Pastor Wang Yi, I will have that link below in the description box. And as always, you're more than welcome to buy a book. Thank you to those who have bought a book, an audiobook or a hardcover. I've seen those. Thank you so much for purchasing books. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to like and subscribe as you feel led. And as always, shalom.